It's been the toughest month of my life. Time, place, even purpose, all a blur. I vaguely recall a post, was it a year ago or two? Volunteer medics needed to run a mobile clinic for refugees in Lebanon. Florence of Arabia meets Florence Nightingale. That would be me. It took 2 months to build enough trust with the Syrians to provide medical services in their own ITS, informal tented settlements.
Hello, my name is Svetlana Stone. You are watching Artist Voices, where we believe it's essential for artist voices to be heard. And we are pleased to have our guest, Carl Ratner. He is a local musician, professor at Western Michigan University. We are so glad to have you here. Carl, how was your day?
My day was lovely. For me, I was giving exams to my students, so I don't know what they would say.
That's what I assume. It's like the end of the semester. You probably have a lot of
exams and juries.
Exams and juries.
And then I have to grade them all.
I hope that all students will get a good grade.
I do too. I hope so.
So tell us about you, how you end up in Kalamazoo, and tell about you and how you get here. Of course, at Western.
Well, the short story is that I was finishing my doctorate in vocal performance at Northwestern, and the job came open here in Kalamazoo, and of course I was desperately applying to jobs in many places, but Kalamazoo liked me and I liked them. I had some choices, but Kalamazoo was the most suitable.
That's great. And then for those who doesn't know Dr. Carl, he is very modest, but he's a professor at Western Michigan University, vocal professor, and successful singer. So speaking to that,
All right.
Tell us about...
So my life has been followed a very unusual trajectory because I began as an opera director. When I was in my undergrad, I majored in music history. And after that, I started assisting opera directors really around the world. And then I got involved in leading a couple of opera companies in the Chicago area. And well, you know, I always wanted to sing, but I don't know, I was partly a little shy and I didn't get a lot of encouragement. But at a certain point, I realized that compared to the singers that I was auditioning, I could do well. They had good resumes, and I had a decent voice. So I suddenly just started singing in my 30s. So I won't say how many years ago that was before, but that's relatively late for people to start singing. And I didn't start
like a classical singer?
Right.
So you have not singing before?
I didn't. I was a director, but not a singer.
But you have a degree in music.
Right? But my degree was in music history.
Wow.
I had never studied with a professional voice teacher.
That's amazing.
And I didn't study with a professional voice teacher till I was 38 years old. And so that's very rare. Usually singers get started, at least by college age, if not before, many in high school. And so there I was singing church jobs, and one thing led to another. And I finally decided to get some voice lessons, when I was 38, 39 years old. And then when I was in school, I ended up majoring first in vocal pedagogy and then in vocal performance at Northwestern. And it's been a wonderful experience. I had so many great experiences as an opera director and as an assistant director around the world. And then to be able to sing myself and to also to teach, to be able to pass on the knowledge that I have from the great singers in the world to my students here in Kalamazoo is it's really a gift.
So, what was the focal point for you to start to sing? You said you were listening in other singers, but there is something else probably behind that, right? Or like your passion about music. When
Well,
did you
of
notice
course.
that you want to be a musician?
Yes, I loved vocal music from childhood.
And especially classical.
Classical and
Yeah,
opera. I used to
classical.
listen to classical and opera when I was in high school. My parents both loved opera, and there's a kind of a little funny story about this because the Metropolitan Opera from New York used to come to my city of Memphis, Tennessee every year and bring 3 productions. And my parents would get dressed up in tuxedos and long dresses and go to the opera. And you would think my parents tried to, make us want to do that, but, well, maybe they did. But what they said was, I said, Mama, what's going on? Why are you all dressed up? What's happening? And she said, we're going to the opera. You couldn't possibly be interested. So
that was very encouraging.
It's for grown-ups. You couldn't possibly be interested. So this mysterious thing that was just for grown-ups, I mean, of course I had to find out about it. And I'd have to say that one of the things that really drew me in, strangely enough, I think it's a barrier for many other people, but the first opera I saw was Carmen, and the entire thing was in French, 4 hours long, people talking and singing in French. I just thought that was fantastic, that they had these artists from all over the world and they were all speaking French.
So you get fascinated.
I
Actually,
did.
they do not expect you, but you come.
Exactly. I just wanted...
From the first time that you
From the first
get
time
there,
that I went. I remember
you were
it
captured
very...
by this
yes.
environment.
I was maybe 11 years old and I remember the performance very, very well. I remember the singers and the experience. I mean, it was an amazing thing.
And speaking to that, I know how you run opera workshops. You have like great knowledge, great memory. You know how to arrange the things.
Well,
I'm amazed.
I've been very lucky, that when I was assistant directing, I worked really in the really best opera houses in the world, the Royal Opera in London, the Bavarian State Opera in Munich, the Spoleto Festival in Italy, Metropolitan Opera in New York, San Francisco, Chicago. So I worked with really the greatest singers of not your time but mine, let's say, those years before. When I was young, I was working with these very, Luciano Pavarotti and Placido Domingo and so forth. And so,
I never knew that.
Yes,
Dr. Carr, you're so humble person.
So
I'm glad that we learn right now.
And I'm the kind of person, I didn't ask those two a lot of questions.
Tell us more what we don't know.
But I would ask colleagues questions about singing, and so I just was so curious about it all and just loved all of these great pieces.
Wow, what's your favorite opera?
It's probably The Marriage of Figaro, I think, by Mozart. I love that opera. There's so much heart in it. In some ways the music is very simple and straightforward, but it just talks of who we are as human beings.
What
really
does music make you to feel when you sing some musical pieces, and how it make you feel?
Well, that's an interesting question. I got to sing a wonderful concert of Verdi and Wagner arias in Europe, with a gigantic orchestra behind me. And you almost feel like you're lifted off the ground by the orchestra and by the whole experience.
The music or the message?
I guess I'd have to say the music in a way. I mean, it's all part of the same thing, of course. The composers are integrating the message into the music, so they're all connected. And as I said, I love the words and the languages and everything, but there's something about the way the composers have added layer upon layer, and here's the trombones, and here's the violins, and here's my voice somewhere in this gigantic thing, and all 100 people are expressing this composite thing. And the conductor's vision or sound vision is the thing that is guiding us all. and yet at the same time, each individual's personality somehow is there, because no one can play or sing a note without some aspect of their personality in it. And so, so the conductors somehow have to blend 100 personalities along with their own and the composers, and I think it's a magical thing.
Wow. Thank you for sharing. And Artist Voices show, it's a show where we believe it's essential for artists' show to be heard. And also, what does it take to be a musician at 21st century? You've been telling us about your great experience. You've been working for such amazing places with a great artist. But what is behind that? What kind of like work, or what does it take you to get even to this place? You said you start your career like in your late 30s, right? Like
Yes.
38.
2 years ago in my late 30s.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
So, but what does it take, you know, to be,
Yes.
you know, like, because you show up, I saw a performance, you great smile, you know, in a nicely dressed up, but what does it take, like,
Yes.
to even learn this piece?
Well,
Or
there's so much, as you say, that's involved. And I should also say that nowadays careers are quite different from the way they were in the past, where one person did one thing and that was what they did, and they went around the world doing that one thing. Maybe they learned a new role each year, maybe two. Nowadays, careers really are combinations. Some teaching, some singing, some directing, some writing, you know, many different, something completely unrelated to music. Maybe you have a great recipe for fudge and you make brownies, you know, so, and many people, even the people that eventually get to the top, many people sort of take a path, not my same path, but another path that's a little bit convoluted. But you do have to be, you know, it's a combination, of course, of luck, talent, and preparation, that all of those things have to be there. And I had spectacular luck. I always say that I'm the luckiest guy in the world. So I had great luck to meet the right people at the right time, and and to try to be as ready as I could to do whatever they would let me attempt to do. But of course, it's very challenging to learn that many words and notes in a full large opera role. And you don't even think it's not only just the words and the music, but the, you know, is it loud or soft? Is it staccato or is it legato, or what is it? So you have to learn such a tremendous amount to prepare something like that. So it's a lot of work. People don't realize how much work really goes into it. And you do have to be willing to make a certain amount of sacrifices in your life, right? You can't be, or let's just say most people can't be, I can't be, living the party life. You know, I don't know how many times I've been called by friends who said, you know, oh, come out, we're at this place and we're having a great time. And I'm like, well, you know, I really can't. For instance, if I have a major performance, I don't drink within 2 weeks of any sort of a major performance because alcohol affects my singing ability for about 4 days. So you'd think, well, I could, you know, I could drink on Monday.
Party, you know?
Yeah, I could party on Monday and sing on Friday. But the truth is that a lot of singing has to do with confidence. If you're not confident, you will not. It's not just that you will look not confident, it's that your actual vocal mechanism will not perform correctly. Because where does fear go? Fear goes in your breathing, fear goes in your vocal cords. And so if you have 5 days of bad practices before you have a performance coming up, that affects you psychically, and you're not going to give the best performance you can. So I'm very careful about, you know, how I live my life in order that I will be prepared to do my best, emotionally, intellectually, and vocally, in every way.
Well, so speak about that. What challenges you face besides that you mentioned, and what challenges do you think the artists of 21st century are challenging right now?
Well, let's talk about
Mm-hmm.
yes. Let's talk about the situation with COVID because one thing that people don't really think about is, first of all, many people can't practice in their homes. They live in some kind of apartment situation and they don't feel comfortable practicing at just about any hour of day or night. Also, to sing, you have to spend a certain amount of time singing in big rooms.
Especially opera singer, because they project big voice.
Right.
You cannot whisper or something to practice, right?
Exactly. If you're practicing in your breakfast room, that's a 10 by 10 room, you will not, not only will you hesitate to give everything that you have, but it affects your whole physicality. You're not going to breathe the same in a room like that.
Yeah.
You're not going to support the sound the same in a room like that. You're not going to vocalize the same. So the pandemic has really caused a loss for many of us who sing and to practice our art. And it's different for different instruments. Everything is a little bit different, but the problems of not being able to collaborate because people couldn't be close together. And things will probably never be exactly the same as they were. We'll always have these concerns.
Let me be your shelter. Let me be your light. You're safe. No one will find you. Your fears are far behind you.
All I want is freedom, a world with no more night, and you always beside me, to hold me and to hide me.
Then say you'll share with me one love, one lifetime. Let me lead you from your solitude. Say you need me with you, here beside you. Anywhere you go, let me go too.
Welcome to Artist Voices. For those of you who just tuned in, we are here at Public Media Network with a local musician, professor, Karl Ratner, to talk about what does it mean to be a musician at 21st century. Thank you for watching us. Dr. Karl, I'm so happy to learn more about you, about your journey to being a musician, what challenges you were facing. And we've talked about what does it take to be a musician, how challenging it is. And we start talk about, you said that people don't realize that how musicians were affected by singing,
Right.
we're not able to get to even to the practice room.
Yes.
So what would be your advice to the musicians who are facing all those challenges that we mentioned above, but they still, obviously, to be a musician is not an easy path, as people may not realize. And what would be your advice to the young musicians who decided to be a musician, and also how people who love music, how they can support music and artists?
Right. Well, of course, I think the pandemic provided also some opportunities. So there are things going on in our internet society. There's so many resources that are out there. So, for instance, the Metropolitan Opera was broadcasting online a performance. So I could find the score online, sing along all the baritone roles with the performance. If I wanted to do that every day, I could. I didn't, but I did it frequently. So I think the key is sometimes, I mean, it's wonderful if you're a person who's naturally curious, as I was, and wants to find out other roles that they might be able to sing, or other songs, or other languages. So I would just say that people should, young singers should just try to absorb as much as they can and find where, the paths where their hearts lead. And I also always say to singers, you must learn to love languages, because so much of what classical singers do involves different languages. I've sung in 14 languages, and it's just such a joy to be able to integrate another language, another culture into what you're doing, and find the different colors that come from that. But I would just say, don't wait for people to exactly tell you what you should do. Find your path and find the things that, make you excited, and just learn everything about them.
It's awesome. And how people can support young musicians and music in general.
Yes.
Because like we mentioned, it's challenging to be a musician, a lot of things, and not everyone could become a full-time artist.
Right. You would have no idea how much it means both emotionally and practically to a young musician when someone recognizes their talent, says, when are you performing again? I'd like to attend your concert, and goes. That really means something to them, but also, each little piece of the puzzle in terms of, financial support or word of mouth.
Attending the concerts.
Yes, just having an audience in the concerts. There's the sense that there's sort of a groundswell of realizing the talent of some artists. So, of course, I would advise people to realize that they can be an important piece of the puzzle in someone's career, in a small way or in a big way. Of course, I know people that have sponsored artists and sent them to New York to study at Juilliard or whatever, but just buying a ticket is also a wonderful support and means something. And people, they keep track of how many people attend each concert. You don't know how much difference it makes just for someone to buy a ticket and go. This may seem strange, but sometimes you have friends who are musicians, and you call them up and say, "Oh, can I have a free ticket to your concert on Sunday?" Well, if you don't need the free ticket, why don't you pay the $20 and go? Because it actually, it actually helps the artist in a variety of ways.
Yeah.
So,
Agree.
You are a wonderful artist yourself, and you perform in many different kinds of venues, and many people, of course, know you in all of your talents, here as a interviewer, but also as a performer.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carl. And for those who don't know, Dr. Carl is my professor, and I've been honored, to learn from him about music, about vocal performances. I've been so blessed all these years that I've been with you, Dr. Carl. I really appreciate your talent, your support. You're always supportive, not only to me, but all other students that you have at Western. Thank you so much. I want to tell you that. Thank you so much.
Well, you're very welcome. And of course, every time you walk into my studio, I feel joy. You're a person that brings joy into the world. But I do want to say one thing, which is that we teachers, sometimes we feel that it's important to, help the student be realistic, and in some ways that is important, but also, knowing for myself that as a young person, no one particularly recognized my talent. In fact, I'm remembering when I did a performance in Washington, a college friend of mine came to the performance and And we had a little luncheon afterwards, and he told everyone, "Oh, you should have heard him in college. He was terrible. He was just terrible." So the funny thing is that sometimes it's you don't. There's nothing necessarily good that can come from discouraging people. You want to guide them and say, "Well, this is not ready for this particular venue." But you don't want to say nothing good could ever happen for you and your musical talent, because you just don't know that. You just don't know how a person may grow and develop in terms of their artistry and in terms of their voice or technical ability. So that's one thing that we really, I think, have to be careful of as teachers.
I appreciate all great support that I've got for you. I mean, the day number one, when I walk into your studio, you're very supportive, and you also can recognize what we don't know about ourselves, about our voices.
Right.
You are able to evaluate and suggest like the pieces that fit your voice. I really appreciate it. It was great experience. When I think about that, it's great. Maybe I should go back to school.
Well, it's funny because one of the things I tell my students, which is absolutely true, is that essentially, if you've been admitted to Western Michigan University as a performance major, you are more talented than I was at your age. So all of these people that I'm teaching show more talent than I did when I was their age. And so that means, whatever I've accomplished is possible for them too. Of course, I said luck, talent, and preparation. All three of those things have to be there.
And someone who believes in your talents. And
someone who believes in your talents. Yes, yes. So, I was very lucky also in that my family was very supportive. When I went to school, a college education was not very expensive compared to what it is now.
No, yes.
I went to Oberlin College, and it didn't cost as much as
There's
Western
another challenge,
Michigan.
right? The education has cost a lot of money to.
That's right. And depending on what you're going to do, I mean, some people have to make some hard choices in terms of the cost of their education. It's very sad when we've had students that have had to leave because of some financial reason.
What the best of advice you ever were able to get from another musician that really influenced you and your decision to become an artist?
That is a very good question. I'd have to think about it. What was the best advice anyone ever gave
musician,
me?
Yeah, or another musician, or you receive, and it's really like influence you the way you start, even like see your career or yourself.
I think it was one of the things. It was, of course, to be as ready as you can be when the opportunity comes. And I've seen that with not just in my students, but in my professional situations where someone is, for instance, an understudy. That doesn't mean any opportunity will come, but it means that you should be prepared. if that opportunity does come. Of course, it's important to, of course, people can sense when you're just sort of pushing yourself on them. You don't want to be overly pushy or whatever, but they can also sense when you're genuinely interested in them and making connections, meeting people, finding out about them and their lives. That can only benefit you. So.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carl. And could you please tell us when our audience can find more information about you, about your future performances? If there is any website or link or they can see your performances and learn about?
Yes. Well, first of all, of course, there is a biography of me on the Western Michigan University School of Music site. I do have some performances on YouTube. Some of them posted by me, some posted by others, so they run a gamut between what I would recommend and what not. Another fascinating thing I have on YouTube is some instructions for how to sing in Russian for American singers. So that's kind of amusing. And of
So
course,
it's like a lessons, right?
yes, exactly.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then may I mention that you and I are giving a concert together in February.
Yeah, you can mention that. Where's
yes,
the concert is going to be?
At Millwood United Methodist Church. And we're going to be giving a concert of Russian and Russian American composers. So,
And what date is going to be? February?
that's February 20th at 3 in the afternoon.
And again, where is going to be?
Millwood United Methodist Church.
Kalamazoo, Michigan.
And you know that when I say Russian or Russian American composers, George Gershwin was a Russian American composer. Irving Berlin was. So.
What time? 3?
3 in the afternoon.
3 in the afternoon.
So I'm very much looking forward to that, and you and I will sing some duets and some songs, some arias, some show tunes. I think it'll be wonderful.
That's great. That sounds great. Thank you so much, Dr. Karl. I really appreciate your willingness and your support to come to our show so other people can learn about you and what does it take to be a musician at 21st century. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
And look forward to singing with you
yes.
February 22nd.
20th. February 20th.
20th. February 20th. Thank you again. Thank you so much. Well, this concludes this episode of Artist Voices, where we believe it's essential for artist voices to be heard. And we are thanks Dr. Ratner for being with us and share about his experience to being a musician. Thank you so much for watching us, and see you next time.